Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to start looking at War of the Spark. We're going to start off with Gideon the Oathsworn, which is a white-black deck. Really been looking forward to talking about the War of the Spark decks because, well, I mean, let's just say we're eating good for the next few videos, honestly. Like, it's almost like a button got pushed and they just, suddenly these Planeswalker decks really suddenly jumped up in quality. You'll see what I mean when we look over the next few decks. So, Gideon the Oathsworn. Decklist here, so we've got 22 creatures, 4 sorceries, 7 instants, single enchantment, 24 land, and 2 planeswalkers in the absolute twist of the century. Yeah, we've actually got 2 planeswalkers, War of the Spark being the set that introduced planeswalkers at rarities other than, rare or mythic rare. So there's a whole bunch of uncommon planeswalkers in the set, and both this deck and the next one both have an uncommon planeswalker in them, which is actually pretty cool, I think. So yeah, let's just get on with it. Mana curve off to the side there as usual. So yeah, Gideon the Oathsworn. 4 and double white for 4 loyalty, which is expensive, but we're also at the stage here where planeswalkers in War of the Spark had passive abilities. So yeah, I think there's actually 6 mana for this is actually okay. So Gideon's passive ability, whenever you attack with 2 or more non-Gideon creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures, which I think is, perfectly okay. You're going to be attacking out with a bunch of creatures anyway. It's kind of a white-black weenie deck. Yeah, so for them to keep getting this kind of like constant, +1/+1 counter, I think is really, really good. His +2 is to until end turn he becomes a 5/5 white soldier creature that's still a planeswalker, prevent all damage that would be dealt to in this turn. Standard like Gideon ability to turn into a creature and go hit something. It's weird that he doesn't turn into a human soldier. I've just noticed that's weird, but yeah, that's fine. It's actually nice because because he, even says in the remind text he can't attack in the same turn he's cast because he's got summoning sickness. But it does mean the turn you cast him, he can still potentially do something because of the passive ability, which I think is a really, really nice effect. And then his -9 is to exile himself and each creature your opponents control. So just a huge one-sided wipe as he sacrifices himself, which is obviously very lore accurate. Yeah, really like this version of Gideon. I mean, it is expensive and like the loyalty is a little low, but I think the passive ability is pretty strong, honestly. And then the signature cards, and like these again are such like a jump up from what we've seen before. So the search spell is Gideon's Battle Cry, so 2 and double white. Sorcery, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. That's okay for like 4 mana, honestly, and then obviously it searches up Gideon as well, and then you'll be able to cast him not next turn because he is 6 mana, not 5. I was thinking of the Amonkhet Gideon, but yeah, I think this is okay. Like there is obviously like a bit of a theme using +1/+1 counters in the deck, like not as much as the next deck as we'll see. But yeah, there's definitely a theme of like making your smaller creatures big and buff with counters. So yeah, I think this is perfectly good search spell. It's nice and cheap as well, like at 4. Well, not cheap, but it's a good mid-range one because we, obviously we've seen some really expensive search spells. So I think 4 mana is kind of perfect for this effect. And then we've got 3 Gideon's Company, which is the buddy spell. And normally I'm like, oh, these are terrible. And like to be fair, they have been pretty bad up until now. But Gideon's Company, so 3 and a white for a 3/3. Whenever you gain life, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Gideon's Company. So it's like a bigger Ajani's Pridemate. Oh, and then also like the ability 3 and a white put a loyalty counter on a Gideon Planeswalker. So this is how I think the Planeswalker buddy card should always have been. Like it is a perfectly good creature on its own. It's actually quite strong, I think. Like 4 mana for 3/3. That and whenever you gain life, it gets 2 counters, and there is a bunch of life gain in the deck. And then the extra ability is like it's not. It is sort of dependent on you having the Gideon Planeswalker out, but like all it does is just like, oh, you give it extra loyalty and stuff. And I don't know if all the Planeswalker buddies have been like this, if they've just been good creatures from the start. So like I know, for example, think of I know one of the Nissa ones that was like, oh, if you got Nissa out, it's got +2 power and it has vigilance or whatever. It was just always that, and then had this ability where you put a loyalty counter on a Nissa Planeswalker. If the Planeswalker buddies had always been this, I think that would have been really good, honestly. So yeah, this is a first where the Planeswalker buddy is not, at best aggressively mediocre. I'd say this is actually pretty good, and I say that just because I'm so fond of Ajani's Pridemate, which is also in the deck. And then we've got 4 Desperate Lunges, 1 white instant, target creature gets +2/+2, gains flying until end turn, you gain 2 life. So it's better than Mighty Leap, which was already like an okay combat trick at common, like 2 mana for +2/+2 and flying, and also gains a bit of life. And as we see, Gideon's Company really likes that. So yeah, I think this is again like a really good little combat trick. Like War of the Spark was like a pretty pushed set in terms of power. So I'm not surprised that like this absolute like cheap nothing combat trick common is better than something that we've already had before in sort of a main set. So yeah, really like Desperate Lunge. You got big creatures in here who will get bigger with counters, so giving them evasion is obviously pretty good. Right, then we've got 3 Makeshift Battalion, 2 and a white for a 3/2. Whenever it and at least 2 other creatures attack, put a +1/+1 counter on Makeshift Battalion. So this sort of synergizes with Gideon's ability where you want kind of multiple creatures attacking. It's also a cute nod to Return to Ravnica, like the Boros, where they had their battalion ability, which triggered where if you attacked with 3 creatures. So it's a cute nod to that. Yeah, it's just kind of solid, isn't it? Just like 3 for a 3/2. Yeah, and just can keep giving itself counters as long as you keep swinging out. That's pretty good. And 3 of them, which is actually really, really nice. Almost as nice as the full playset of Charmed Stray. So 1 white mana for a 1/1 with lifelink, and when it ends the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control named Charmed Stray. So full playset of them, which is really, really nice. Rather than just like 2 or 3, because I could easily see them just doing 2 or 3 of these in the deck rather than a full playset. But yeah, this is really nice. I think just like a 1 mana 1/1 with lifelink, and then potentially also gives counters to multiples of it. I think that's really nice. And then 3 Ajani's Pridemate, so smaller version of Gideon's Company, but the OG. So 1 white for a 2/2. Whenever you gain life, it gets a +1/+1 counter. That's perfect. Like we've seen it before. Ajani's Pridemate is like absolutely solid, and like like I say, there's actually enough life gain in the deck for this to like really get out of control. And there's 3 of them, which is really nice because it's uncommon as well. And to have 3 of them is actually, I should not be getting this excited that there's just like 3 of a really solid uncommon in these Planeswalker decks. But like, man, like this really feels like it's spoiling me. But it's kind of like how they should have always been built, We do have a random one off though. We've got 1 Vampire Opportunist. Opportunist, yeah. 1 and a black for a 2/1. 6 and a black to each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. I mean, at the very least, it's a 2/1 for 2 with no drawback, fine, whatever. But yeah, late game, huge mana sink to do a bit of life drain. Yeah, it's fine. Obviously, I think that's an easy first cut out of here. Just one of them isn't doing anything. And then we've got 3 Cruel Celebrants, so another 3 of like a pretty good uncommon here. So a single white and black for a 1/2. Whenever it or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So yeah, kind of standard aristocrat effect here that has obviously nice sacrifice synergies. I know we haven't got any of those in the deck, but you got lots of small creatures, you're going to be really aggressive, stuff's going to be dying all over the place, you're going to be doing a bit more draining. Yeah, I think this is, again, really nice inclusion in the deck, and obviously helps with the life gain because it helps out Ajani's Pridemate and the Gideon's Company. Yeah, I think it's a solid inclusion. And then just a bunch of random flyers here. So we've got 2 Trusted Pegasus, 2 and a white. It's actually the Pegasus that Gideon uses, which is really nice. So 2 and a white for a 2/2 with flying. I wonder, actually, a bit of a tangent. I really wonder if like in a Horizons or a Commander set one day we'll actually get the Pegasus that Gideon rides. That'd be cool. Anyway. So 2 and a white for a 2/2 fly, so Windrake stats, which is perfectly serviceable, and when it attacks, it gives another attacking creature flying until end of turn. So yeah, so you got your stuff like Ajani's Primate who are getting all the counters, give them evasion. Yeah, really solid. Single War Screecher, 1 and white for a 1/3 of flying. Like the Vampire, has another big mana sink ability, 5 and a white tap. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 turn. It is expensive, and it does require a tap. It is a lot of mana, but like, I mean, what do you want? It's already on like a 1/3 flyer that's only 2, and it's common. Like, it's better, kind of like it's easy to sort of dismiss this ability, but like I do think it's better to have it and not ever use it rather than like not have it and need it. Yeah. I mean, I know you've only got 1 of them, but like I think this is perfectly okay. Just for like a little flying dork like this, just to have like a board wide pump ability, even if it's a small one, even if it is expensive. Like it's definitely better than not having it. There is another big tangent here. There is actually like a sort of a design thing like that. I remember like an old design article where they were like, people even because this is, technically this is an upside to have this ability, but like if it's like kind of badly costed, like people still undervalue the card. I think there was like an example where like if you had normal Grizzly Bears, which is like a 2-mana 2/2 with no abilities, and you had a 2-mana 2/2 with like the ability to like pay like 10 life to regenerate it, people would say like, oh, that one's worse because you have to pay so much for its ability, when technically it's still better than having no ability. You know what I mean? That's such a huge tangent, but like it just came to my mind while looking at this card. Anyway. And then 2 Enforced Griffin, which is just a 5-mana 3/4 with flying. Yep, again, perfectly serviceable, and then the second Planeswalker in the Planeswalker deck, or it should be a Planeswalkers deck, really, I suppose. Kaya, Bane of the Dead, is her uncommon version. So 3 and 3 Orzhov hybrid mana. So like all the Planeswalkers in the set, I think actually she has a passive ability which is really nice. She has no ways of increasing her loyalty like all the uncommon Planeswalkers. You basically just got like a few goes of her ability and then she'll disappear. But her passive is very niche, but also very, very appreciated when it goes off. Your opponents and permanents your opponents control with hexproof can be targeted by spells and abilities as though they didn't have hexproof, which is really nice. Lets you just completely bypass hexproof, which is again niche but really, really appreciated when you need it. And then she's got a -3 just to exile a creature, which is I think that's just solid. So she can pop off 2 of those. I think that's pretty good. So yeah, we like uncommon Kaya. And then one of the rares in the deck is her Oath. So 1, a white and a black for a legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, it does 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. That on its own is, I think, okay, like 3 mana, admittedly at sorcery speed, but 3 damage to anything and also gain 3 life. And obviously you've got all the things that care about life gain. And then whenever an opponent attacks a Planeswalker you control with 1 or more creatures, Oath of Kaya deals 2 damage to that player and you gain 2 life. So yeah, you've got like Gideon, you've got Kaya down, who are kind of like fairly threatening-ish, I suppose. Like your opponent might want to go into them, but like Oath of Kaya is like, nope, you're going to take some damage, and I'm going to gain some life if you're going to go after the Planeswalkers. Actually, makes me wish there'd been a few more Planeswalkers in the deck. Maybe like even just like 1 or 2 more, just like so this ability like just mattered more, I suppose. But yes, I think it's a really solid card to have. And the other rare is also really, really good. These War of the Spark decks are actually really good. So Command the Dreadhorde, 4 and double black sorcery. Choose any number of target creature and or Planeswalker cards in graveyards, not just yours, any graveyards. Command the Dreadhorde deals damage to you equal to the total mana value of those cards, and then you put them onto the battlefield on your control. So it's like you can go as high as you want with this to get back like a bunch of creatures, and you've got some life. You've got a fair amount of life gain in the deck, so you could kind of go pretty hard with this. Get back dead Planeswalkers and dead creatures, dead opponents' creatures as well. Really, really solid rare to include here. Nice big splashy sorcery. Yeah, really, really like that. Then we've got 3 Ob Nixilus's Cruelty, 2 and a black. Instant speed, target creature gets -5/-5 until end turn, which is pretty much a guaranteed kill on like so many things. And if it would die, it gets exiled instead. This is so good at like common. After I feel like we've had to deal with like so many like overcosted like sorcery speed -X effects like that, like this, for so long. Like, I feel like since Khans, where we've had to have stuff like Throttle and stuff like that, really expensive. But now this is cheap. It's at instant speed. -5/-5 is absolutely huge, and it has the exile kicker on it as well. So yeah, really, really good removal spell. And again, there's 3 of them, which is really nice. This is a great card, great inclusion here. And then we have a single Bond of Discipline. This is again, this is so good. This is like such an absolute. Usually, when it's played, it's an absolute I win button. So 4 and a white. Also, there's a whole cycle of these bonds. I really, really like this. This is kind of actually wanted way back in Dragon's Maze, how it's like 2 guilds coming together, like in the artwork. So this is like Orzhov and Azorius, like combining their abilities. Like there's a whole cycle of the bonds. I think they're absolutely great. But yeah, Bond of Discipline, 4 and a white sorcery. Tap all creatures your opponents control. So just out there, get them out of the way, and then all your creatures get lifelink until end turn. So it's just such a big I win button. Just like get all the blockers out of the way, give all your stuff lifelink, you swing through. If you don't kill your opponent, you do a huge amount of damage, you gain a whole bunch of life, and you've got a nice cushion, and it's just a really, really solid card. Really like that. And then lands, we've got 4 Orzhov Guild Gates, enters the battlefield tapped, gives you white or black, and then 12 plains and 8 swamps. So yeah, what could have been? I don't think there's much I would change, honestly, because this I really like this one. But you know, there's maybe some things we could sort of shuffle around a little bit. Sunblade Angel was a potential here, I thought. It is expensive, but it is absolute keyword salad here. So 5 and a white for a 3/3 with flying, first strike, vigilance, and lifelink. The lifelink is what made it sort of stand out to me a little bit. Like, oh, we could have, that could work in here as well. But it's like we're pretty stacked with uncommons on there, and like really good uncommons. So I'm not sure there would have been room for Sunblade Angel. Banehound is a potential here, like 1 black mana for a 1/1 with lifelink and haste, which is so, like for 1 black mana. It's just, again, this is the old player in me in looking at this, I suppose. But like back in the day, if you had like 1 black mana for a 1/1 with like 2 really good abilities, you'd be like, oh my god, it's chase rare. But like it's just it's an absolute bulk common in War of the Spark. But yeah, it could have gone in here. It can swing down the turn you play it. It's got lifelink. That's what the deck wants. Yeah. And then I was thinking as an alternate rare, maybe instead of Oath of Kaya or Command the Dreadhorde, and those are both really good. I thought Sorin, Vengeful Bloodlord, as just another Planeswalker in here. So 2, a white and a black for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. As long as your turn, creatures and Planeswalkers you control have lifelink, so again, there's a big synergy there. His +2 lets him deal 1 damage to a player or Planeswalker, which is also gains you some life because he'll have lifelink from his own ability. And then his -X is to return a creature card with converted mana cost X or less from your X from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a vampire and distributes other types, so he gets to like a reanimation effect. And you've got like fairly cheap creatures in the deck, so it wouldn't require a lot of loyalty to do that ability. But yeah, how good would that have been to have like Gideon, Sorin, and Kaya like in this deck, like 3 Planeswalkers? That would have been great. But as it is, I think it's really solid. As is, like really well put together. Especially comparing to like other ones we've looked at. And I think actually the next one we're going to look at is potentially even better than this one. But yeah, really enjoyed looking at this one. As I say, we are eating good for the next few decks. It does dip off again a little bit, but yeah. We're at the high point of Planeswalker decks, honestly, which is good because we're in War of the Spark where Planeswalkers were really good. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the deck. I say I really liked it. I'd really like to know what other people think about this one. Like, you got any thoughts or comments or stories, opinions about the deck or any of the cards in it? Stick a comment below. And yeah, I'll see you next time when I look at the next War of the Spark Planeswalker deck. So I hope you join me for that. But until then, thanks for watching, listening, and have a great day.